Hey, how you guys doing? Michael X. So Chieftain Mark 6 heavy tank full review. Been a while in the making. It's not actually because I've been grinding the tank or anything. It's because I just really haven't had any time to play tier 10s. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but I've been actually getting some marks of excellence on a lot of tier 10s. Now, I only have about 110 battles in this, so I'm going to say that I'm going to give you guys what I've learned so far, but I really should have like more like 300 games in this tank before making any real comments. But I am going to go ahead and tell you guys from my experience so far, although this is a really good haul down vehicle, great hill fighting tank, the Chieftain does have weak points on the turret, which people have figured out. And I will say that up against heat, if you're not in a hull down position, the maximum 10-degree hull down position, it's very, very hard to play. So this can do 42 forward, and it can do 15 in reverse, 10% chance of engine fire. The reload time is 8.25, aim time 1.5, accuracy 0.32, 720 meters of max range, 20 degrees of elevation, 10 degrees of gun depression, which is amazing. Not going to talk about the tracks. 390 degrees of view range. Doesn't make any sense to me. How could the Conqueror Tier 9 actually have less view range than this? I think they want to force you to use coated optics on this tank. 750 meters signal range. And of course, the ammunition it shoots APCR and some HESH. So 270 makes it the highest pinning, heavy tank with a standard shell in the game. Now its secondary is 310, which kind of sucks if you think about that. You only get 310 and it costs you 4,800 a shot. Now it does get HESH, which is actually 900 a shot, which is pretty cheap, but that HESH can penetrate 140. So you can do a possible 515 damage, and of course you guys can see the armor here. So talking about armor, you guys can see here that it is pinnable, that upper plate. It's only 90 millimeters, so you got to be really careful and make sure that when you're playing this tank, that if you're on flat ground, you have something covering that entire, green area. You can see that the turret is, although it does have some really thick points, I will say that you cannot shoot through the gun on this, which at least that's good. But I'm going to go ahead and say that there are places that can be pinned above the gun. Right above the gun is a place that can be pinned there for 240 something. So heat right there should pin it. You can also pin the hatch. I am going to go ahead and say that when this is in the maximum hull down position, though, it is a whole nother story, and that's what makes this tank superb. This is basically a medium tank on steroids. It really is. It's basically more of a medium tank than it is on anything. Now they skimped on armor across the hull altogether to give it this really powerful turret. The problem is that it does have holes, and premium shells can pin it. I'm going to say that I've actually been getting pinned all over this turret when people are using heat. Now if you have it in the full 10 gun depression, as you guys can see here, it goes from being 2 something to being like 350 or 350, maybe even more. So you guys can see that even the lower plate, you can see 400, 300. So all those weak places become not. And of course the hatch is always going to be a weak point, but much harder to hit. And you can see here, this just makes it makes the tank, own hills. Now you do have to be very careful when you're on flat ground, just because of where the ammo racks are situated. So while we got the chance, I want to talk about perks. I'm actually using my snakebite crew, Simon Lennet, for the Chieftain. So snakebite perk, what is it? 6 Sense, Track Mechanic, Brothers in Arms, Repair, and I'm working on, let me just double check on this because this thing needs more maneuverability. So if you guys get a chance before you get like smooth ride snapshot, stuff like that, I'm going to go ahead and just venture and say that you should get off-road driving and then maybe clutch braking so that you can actually spin this tank much faster. Now you guys can see that while going downhill it can achieve 42, but that's max. 42, 47, might be able to hit 50 on on Himmelsdorf or something, but it is very the horsepower to ton ratio of this is very low for its weight. I'm gonna go ahead and say though, you can snapshot with this. As you guys can see, that is a snapshot 1.5 aim time. So this thing is a medium tank, and that is how you want to play it. Now it does have a heavy turret and it has a heavy gun, and that is its advantage that it has, but that does limit you. So for instance, if I'm not on a hill or an incline, I can be pinned. I've actually just, as you guys just seen, I got pinned while on the move, and that was actually probably upper plate that was actually pinned. So you have to be real careful. If the guy is higher than you, it will go right through that plate like butter. And of course, most people nowadays shoot nothing but heat off of the American tanks, so that can pin your turret as well. So don't think that you could just sit there and fire in a hull down position. You do need to be moving around. But that is why you have the 1.5 aim time. And I'm going to go ahead and say that it took me a long time to figure that out, that you could just pop up, aim in, and fire. And sometimes you'll take some shots, but if you do it right and back up out of there, hit or miss, you need to back up and make sure you're not taking any shots. So long range shot, there you go, snapshot, doing high rolls. Now I will say that this tank is notorious for doing 330 to 360, but it can do as high as 5 something. Now in this game right here, I am actually using, I think I'm using enhanced, you know, actually I don't remember what I'm using in this. I might even be toolbox for all I know. But what I'm using coated optics right now. And the reason why is that you do need to be able to see at least the normal range. Now, if there's no other medium tanks around, you will be the only tank out there that can spot. Seriously, if there's nothing but heavies and tank destroyers, you are going to be able to see. So I'd say coated optics is definitely a good choice as your third perk. But I'm going to say vent and gun rammer. And then of course a lot of people, they like to use vertical stabilizer, which I'm going to go ahead and say that you could use, but look at how small the reticle is anyway. It's not really necessary. I'm going to go ahead and say neither is it on the Conqueror, but that's just me. I don't find that I find you can still shoot on the move with this tank, you know, with no problem as long as you're aimed in, which is a big difference, and it's because it's got APCR, and that's good. Another good thing about APCR on this tank is that when you're firing the primos, they don't really know it, so they can't really tell if you're firing, you know, what rounds. But gonna go ahead and say very hard tank to play, very skilled tank, and it's just like the Centennial Chieftain, very hard to play this tank. It can be pinned on the sides of the turret as well, from angles, and that's one thing that's kind of it's hard to figure out where to, but there is a huge like light looking thing on the right hand side of the turret, which I do believe that is actually to see in the dark. But yeah, shooting on the move, no problem. 1.5 aim time makes this thing great, as you guys can see here. Not even in all the way. This gun does remind me of an L7, but in 120 millimeter form, which is pretty sweet. It would be nice if the alpha damage, because it's a modern tank, was like 440. I mean, I know it's a 120, but it has 2 different high velocity shells, and so when you're using your APCRs, it's not like a slow heat round, you know, derping down the range. This is high velocity shells, so those are huge advantages. Now the Hesh on this can do a hell of a lot of damage comparison to the 122 or even a 150, you know, HE shell. It's because you get so much more penetration with it. So this wasn't actually the game that I got my mark on, but it was probably one of the best that I had. I had a couple in storage, but it was back when I first had the tank, and I was going to use them, but the problem was that the tank was faster back then, and it also had it seemed like the accuracy was just off the hook. Now, me switching to AP rounds, there's a reason for that. I did a quick glance, and I realized that I'm probably going to be running into the E100, and probably all their tier 10s, so I definitely don't want to be bouncing any of those guys, so I'm definitely going to spam this. Now I'm going to go ahead and say that normally I would just keep standard shells, but because I was going for my mark and I wanted to get it really quickly, yeah, I can afford it as well. So, and it does take a lot of the skill out of it. And what I mean is that I don't have to sit there and I can hit places that I normally wouldn't be able to hit. This tank, you know, you're going to see here that, you know, going head to head with two heavies, as long as I have the high ground and I'm in the hull down position, really nothing they can do to me, which is pretty good. But if they can get my lower plate, it's over. I'm done. So this tank cannot be on flat ground. Just hear me on that. If you're on a map that's really big and open, stay on some hills or find a dead tank, because even on flat ground, unless you're in the hull down position, the turret can still be pinned. But look at the accuracy of that. Now I'm going to go ahead and say that I could have leaded it a little bit more, but I want you guys to check it out. I'm going to go ahead and reload and do the heel pop. You can see that he got my track, but I was able to kill him and do a snapshot, just like if this was some sort of medium tank. To be honest, this plays like the Centennial Chieftain Law. If you guys have that tank, they play very similar, except for the hatch on it is it's just bad on the Centennial and the T95 Chieftain. I'm going to say that sometimes I switch to APCR and forget. Like shooting APCR at that guy wasn't actually my intention, but I'm going to say right here, this is the perfect position and angle, because I can get a track pin. So let's just see, we did 409. Let's see what else we get. He's also not fully upgraded. We got the 360 something. I don't know if you guys seen that 360 something. And there's no way he's repairing his track. 413. Not in time. He's out of track repair kits. He only has the 127 on it, so I'm going to go ahead and do another one. So that one was a high roll. I don't know if you guys seen that. And of course, there is an E5 that just knocked a tree over, which does kind of complicate things. And normally when I get a guy down to this, I don't know if you've seen that, but 374, you know, I low rolled like crazy. So I just realized that it's an E5. Now, I played this game, so I knew this was going to be, you know, relatively rough. But I'm hoping, you know, hey, I can get some track pins on this guy. I'm like, I just got a track pin. Let's see if I can get some more track pins. You guys can see I get another track, but not a track pin, so I'm assuming maybe I'm not shooting in the right place. I can't really see where it is, so I get another track pin and an ammo rack, which means this guy is now ammo racked, and he has not repaired his track yet, and you can see he finally gets it fixed. I don't know if that was because he used a repair kit or what, but he's thinking, hey, I'm going to charge him. Excuse me. In this position, the best thing you can do is get face to face with this guy and hope that he's not spamming heat. And if you can, try to get around him. As you can see, he's being shot by a lot of tanks. I take a devastating hit to my lower plate, and now I'm gonna go ahead and just get killed, I'm thinking, but you know, I finally land a shot on that hatch. And of course, in artillery, our artillery hits me. So, was this the best game I've had? After the last update, yes, this is the best game I had. But I have actually gotten 7,400 damage in this tank back when it first came out. Excuse me, I still am sick, by the way. So getting a little bit of both here, as you can see. I got a little bit of everything. Only a Mastery 2, which is kind of sucks. You know, thinking about, you know, I guess I'd have to do a lot more blocking. So, in my opinion, this tank has lost a lot of its, you know, its pizzazz because, well, let's just face it, the turret is very easy to pin, you know, if you know where to shoot it. And, of course, if you're willing to spend money, you can actually pin this thing all over the place. So, it really, you know, this tank right here, although I enjoy the tank, and, you know, skill, not skill, using APCR or not using APCR, the 270 pin with the standard shell should be able to pin the E5's hatch, but it can't. it actually has 20 more penetration than needed to do it, but it can't do it. Which kind of makes the standard shells having high pin really, I mean, there's really not a whole lot that they come into, you know. So this was the game I actually got the Mark of Excellence. Now, if you guys aren't aware of this, I have been actually grinding the Conqueror for quite some time, and I took a break for about 2 weeks because, well, let's just face it, I got up to 84%, then dropped down to 79%, and it happened 3 times over the time of playing it. But this morning, I played 5 games, and I finally got my second mark, and it wasn't even on like a big game. I mean, seriously, like this gave me 85% right on the nose. Like, serious. I mean, it was like the closest you could get. I mean, I think I only earned about 0.10 towards it because I was at like 84.94, seriously. And so I only needed to go a little bit more, and there you go. You can see a picture of it with the 2 marks. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please, you know, hit that like button, and of course, subscribe. Have a good one. Later.